You are not going in there!
Locker room shadows, a line is being crossed, protecting the spaces where the truth is being lost. 5 fierce women rising like a storm to keep the boundaries steady and the safety in its form. Thunder Turf, stand your ground. Thunder Turf, the truth is found. Logic and courage, we hold the key, guarding the future for you and for me. Gatekeeper. Doors locked tight, only women inside. Legal eagle. Justice in the court, your ideology denied. Logic lock. Common sense prevails, the binary stays clear. Fair play. Trophies for the girls, no men allowed here. Shield. Protecting the kids, keeping childhood pure. Thunder Turf, stand your ground. Thunder Turf, the truth is found. Logic and courage, we
You
hold
can't
the key,
stop us!
guarding
What's the matter, boys? Feeling trapped?
Let us out!
Oh, you're not going anywhere.
the truth will shine. Thunder Turf, we hold the line. Thunder Turf, reporting for duty.
Time to clean up these streets. Let's do it! We've got this. Thunder Turfs assemble! Thunder Turfs, go!
Now, traditionally, if a woman came up to me and said, I'm Thunder Turf, I'd want to stay away because I don't want to get tangled up in that. But this looks like good programming that children should see instead of the subliminal stuff that goes on trying to convince kids they're, well, not what they really are, right? But then again, does Thunder Turf go with Thunder Thighs? I don't know. Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. It's a real simple proposition. I'm asking you to do what I've done, partner with the fine folks at Goldco, and just go to request your free gold and silver kit today, because now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. Digital stuff's coming, right? Gold's at $4,700 an ounce. Think about me telling you back this before it was $1,500 an ounce. And it's not about investing in gold. It's just about kind of covering your ass. So make sure you go to jovanlovesgold.com. Request your free gold and silver kit today, because now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. Now, by the way, don't worry if you haven't got the email back from us yet regarding gold mining or gemstone mining or whatever. It's a process. It has to go through a process. And when you answer 12 questions, it's got to all be played back to you so it can be confirmed properly, and they begin the process, right? You can't afford mistakes. You have to do it right. That's coming very, 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 very shortly. Now, today's program, what we're going to talk about is the history of presidential assassinations and death threats. Trump gets 8 death threats a day. 8. Wow. Think about that. And it's mainly because the system is so crooked, so far gone. They don't want to stop the money train. Let me show you something real quick. Spencer Pratt, from reality TV. I've never watched any. I guess it was Laguna. I don't know, Laguna Hills or whatever. Never watched any of it. Never knew enough. I just know he was a tabloid magnate, right? But check out this commercial that's running around in L.A. He's running for mayor.
Please, I'm begging you. There's homeless drug addicts in front of the schools. My children aren't safe.
Look, if you were a transgender migrant, I could get you a free pussy.
Let's move the drug addicts closer.
Bass already solved crime. I endorse her.
Please, I just want to rebuild my home. It's been over a year.
Mom, look.
This is a machine. If we want to burn this town to the ground, pull through that!
Feel so close.
You can do it, Spencer!
Now.
I personally think California is a red state, bamboozled by cities that are intentionally turned blue, designed to destroy this country. And the system's going bat poop crazy because their gravy train is getting cut into. They don't care about us. They care about their gravy train. And so with that comes a lot of hate. And the media fuels it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back in time, a historical retrospective of the history of presidential assassinations. Share this program right now. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. Share this program right now with your family and friends. You're going to want to go on this historical journey with me.
It ends up, when you do communism right, it works perfectly and everyone loves it.
And it only took 200 million starving to get here.
That's less than half as many as we thought.
There has been another terrorist attack with 33 dead. The American government has decided not to do anything about it since we probably deserved it.
It sure is great that abortion is now free and available for everyone everywhere.
Yeah, but it's too bad that there aren't any babies to abort since we outlawed being a heterosexual.
Murdering those families was wrong, but you're an immigrant and you probably just didn't know any better. Plus, we shut down all prisons. You're free to go.
This is wrong! You need to lock him up!
How dare you question our compassion? Execute that man immediately!
I found more letters we need to add to the acronym.
It's already so large, it's throwing off the rotation of the Earth. If we add any more letters, we'll die.
Then we die! Everyone just stay in line and walk through the scanner. It's going to check how dark your skin is to see how many benefits you get. If I were you, I wouldn't bother.
The U.S. has run out of money.
Can't we just murder more billionaires and confiscate their wealth?
There are no more left. I'm afraid someone in our country is actually going to have to get a job and work.
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother, wow. She tried to hit an agent with her car, oh no! Pop, motherfucker, now she's gone! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! You fuck around and find out it's what it is! Jeffrey Pretty was a Jewish homo. Started talking shit to protect a chomo. He was getting nicked when he pulled a gun. Bam, motherfucker, now you're gone! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! Fuck around and find out what that is!
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians? The elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media. In the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd, cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, folks, welcome to the program. We're going to be talking about the history of presidential assassinations and death threats. And note that President Trump gets an average of 8 a day. I'm going to give you a punchline right up front. If we were to go back to 1986 and look at legitimate cases of presidential death threats, from 1986 to prior to this Trump current administration, there were 1,444 officially investigated until Trump, who will probably supersede that himself. Now, I believe it's a direct result of politicians, media, the unholy trinity, academia, media, right, and government, wanting to get rid of Trump because they want to stay on the gravy train, and then stuff like this.
I don't want to hear about another assassination attempt unless it was fucking successful. Keep that shit off my timeline until there's success in the air. Get me hyped for nothing. Shit. We need a reason to celebrate. Hurry the fuck up!
Sorry, my allergies going nuts. I sneezed there. Right in the back of her head, too. I mean, right, like I just splattered the back of her pink hair.
I don't want to hear about another assassination attempt unless it was fucking successful. Keep that shit off my timeline until there's success in the air. Get me hyped for nothing. Shit. We need a reason to celebrate. Hurry the fuck up!
The media fuels this. And if you think about the timeline we're in right now, you even have the former head of the FBI putting 87, right? 8746 or whatever it is. And they're all doing it, talking about it and saying it. This has become an epidemic. And that's why I think this has gone through the roof. And that's why I want to go with you on a historic journey. Yeah, that was not Eartha Kit. That was Eartha Quake. I like that. Very good. Eartha Quake. Carpet doesn't match the drapes, but that did match her glasses. It's incredible to think about how many resources, government resources, to take up. Forget about the politicians and stuff just bleeding us dry and ripping us off. Think about how much resources, because the media is in on it, right? You don't threaten the president in any way. That's a crime. And social media has, and I apologize for my allergies, but social media has basically given the imprimatur that this is cool, this is okay. So we're going to go back to the beginning of time, first presidency. You have to understand, from George Washington to Quincy Adams, there have always been political mobs. Always been political mobs. Okay? Isn't it sad? It's just kind of the way it was. But are we enforcing it? I think we should force it. There's always been personal dangers for a president. There's always been wartime threats. But no assassination attempts to the extent we have them now. And so I'm looking at this through the optic. It's just like doing an audit, right? Like an election. You don't go in and audit an election and use that as the one marker for what happened. You got to go back in time, because you have to understand what to measure it against. I'll just give you a good example so you understand how this works. Because if you, in a vacuum, only look at things through one filter, that one moment in time, you might not get the true picture. So a good example, when we did the full forensic audit of Maricopa, and by the way, God bless you for everyone helping. God bless you for people that really stepped up and did magical things, right? And pushed us on our way to getting this done. And thank you for your support to, keep forensically this archive, have it available because it's going to be needed in the midterms. All hell's going to break loose. But also, even from there, if it just lives on in history where other researchers and stuff can study it, all be turned over to the Trump Presidential Library. And you are part of what made that happen, by the way. But we caught a lot of flack because people are saying they're not doing an audit. They're just looking at numbers from way back when. Yeah, we went back and we looked at all the numbers and information 16 years backwards. Now, why did we do that? This is a context I'm giving you of why we have to look at these assassination attempts. Nobody understood how big the scale was in the theft of the election if you didn't go back in history, try to understand it. And a good example would be these things called adjudicated ballots, meaning the machine can't read it, something's up, and therefore something has to be done. A person must look at it. Now, it was a hack on two levels, but you needed history to look at it right to understand the scale. Give you an example. If we went back even a decade and a half or 20 years or even on, if a machine, an average batch of ballots is 200 ballots. The average historically would be one ballot, maybe two, that the machine would say, I can't understand how to read this, therefore it needs to be adjudicated. That was the norm. So that's 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 50. Okay? It started out 1 out of 200, and then it went as high as maybe 1 out of 50. If it ever went where there were more than 1 out of 50, and they monitored this, they would immediately take the machine offline, the scanner, it's not a voting machine, and they would replace it because they basically interpreted that as the machine is not working properly. Okay? That's what they would do. That's the historic average. The other part of this process is when that ballot couldn't be read, they would take that ballot, and it's called outstacking. They pick it up, they set it at the end of the table where everybody's, reviewing everything, and it would say, this ballot didn't read right. They'd stack them there, and it was somebody's job to come get that stack and then go over, ostensibly partisan, look at it and go, okay, this is what it meant, and then basically allow it to be through the system. That was the process. So you had 3 checks and measures. 1, you're monitoring it. 2, if the machine ever got more than 1 in 50 ballots that this was happening to, they assumed the machine scanning was wrong. They replaced the machine. And number 3, they outstacked the ballot. Now, in a very large presidential election like Maricopa in the past, outstacking ballots would eventually be like 10 boxes. There's a batch is 200 ballots. There's 8 ballots in a box, right? And therefore, you're looking at 1,600 ballots roughly. If it got to 10, it would be 10 boxes. So somebody's physically looking at this manifestation because they got to deal with those 10 boxes. Now, fast forward to 2020, and this is all relevant to what we're going to talk about today because I want you to understand why you got to look at the past. If we go to 2020, a very interesting thing happened. Now, if it ever gets more than 1 out of 50, they think the machine's broken and they replace it to fix the error. Well, in Maricopa, the adjudication process was 1 out of every 8 ballots. They used to think 1 out of 50 was a problem. Now they basically went to like 7 out of 50, right? We're talking a 700% increase, minimum. Many were much bigger. But how did they hide it? Because remember, I told you they would look at the ballots and they would stack up. So somebody's sitting there, all of a sudden they stack up, stack up, stack up, stack up. In the case of Maricopa, it would have been 2 1/2 pallets of ballots. That's basically 8 batches in a box, 44 boxes to a pallet, and it would have been 2 1/2 of those pallets. Massive. Well, in order to hide they were doing this, they went to this thing called electronic adjudication, which means nobody ever saw a piece of paper. It never outstacked the ballot. That's how they hid it, because there were no physical warning signs. Now, I tell you this because we would have not understood the scope of what they really did and how they did it if we would have not gone 16 years back in time. But the local bow tie brigade and all these other people that pose themselves as audit says, oh, Jovan and the team's just doing public data. That's not an audit. No, we're professional at what we do. And so to look at what happened in 2020, we went back 16 years in elections so we could look at it through the filter backwards to understand, holy shit. Get it? That's why you never look at the point in just an isolated point. And so now that we've had another assassination attempt on President Trump, let's set that aside for a moment and let's look at this historically, because looking through the filter of history, you may understand just how bad this war is and what's going on. And most people think, well, there's only been 3 attempts on President Trump. No, there's been officially 4, but much more, right? And that's what I want to go through. So the very first clear case of a sitting president didn't happen, George Washington, et cetera, through Quincy Adams. You know, we had mobs and we had stuff, but not an assassination attempt on a president. The very first one happened regarding Andrew Jackson, and that was January 30th, 1835. Okay? So this fellow, Richard Lawrence, I hear he was a dick. This fellow, Richard Lawrence, attempted to shoot President Jackson just outside the U.S. Capitol. Now, at that time, you could just walk up to the White House and stuff, right? So he tried to shoot President Jackson right outside the Capitol. And what's interesting is his two pistols, right? Both misfired. Now, what are the odds of that? Both pistols, one right after the other, misfired. Now, thank God, right? So what did President Jackson do? He proceeded to walk out to where the guy was. President Jackson walked with a cane, and he took his cane and he beat the shit out of the guy. Yeah. And so he was arrested. He was judged to be insane. Okay. And so what you have there is the very first United States presidential assassination attempt. The president himself kicked the shit out of the would-be assassin. And so that's if you look at the archives, that's the very first assassination attempt. Okay. Next. Now, with Abraham Lincoln, the danger was far more real. By the way, what 3 famous people in history got shot in the back of the head in a theater? Do you know? Put it in chat. What 3 people in history, famous people in history got shot in the back of the head in a theater? Of course, Lincoln, right? Who's the other one? Hinckley, right? And the third one, yeah, the guy sitting in front of Pee Wee Herman. Anyway, I digress. Think about that. So, Abraham Lincoln's first assassination attempt, identical to Donald Trump. came before his inauguration. Oh, you got my joke? Thank you very much. The guy sitting in front of Pee Wee Herman. You get it? Okay, thank you. I'll be here all week. Just one of my favorite stupid-ass history jokes. And so there was something called the Baltimore Plot, and this was in 1861. It was before his inauguration. Most people don't even know that. Same thing with Donald Trump. Most people forget the early attempt in the administration, right? I happened to have been there at the time, watching from the balcony across, looking, I just happened to be looking at all the Secret Service and stuff. I was there. Why was I there? I forget why I was there. And it was like, holy smokes, this is going to get worse. And it did. Okay. So what happened? This thing called the Baltimore Plot in 1861. And then in 1864, because he was under constant threat, a shot went through Lincoln's hat at the soldiers' home. They used to take care of war veterans and stuff. They had a thing called the Old Soldiers' Home. He was there visiting. Of course, he wore a stovepipe hat, which was high, and the shot made it through his hat, just barely over the top of his head. And then, of course, on that fateful day, April 14th, 1865, John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln at Ford's Theater. Okay, Lincoln died the next morning. Booth got killed in capture. Several conspirators were arrested, tried by military commission. 4 were hanged. Lincoln's killing became the first successful United States presidential assassination, which is where we get the saying, your name is mud. You ever heard that saying? Your name is mud. Meaning your name has been muddied up and whatever. Well, that was a doctor that people accused of being in on it. He was drugged through the ringer. His name was Mudd, M-U-D-D. They butchered him in the press. He had nothing to do with it. And that's where we get the colloquialism, your name is Mudd. A little bit of whatever. And of course, you can't blame the CIA, right? Anyway, on July 2nd, 1881, Charles Garfield was shot by James Garfield, was shot by Charles Guiteau, Guiteau, at the Baltimore Potomac Railroad Station in Washington. Garfield lingered for weeks, and then he died. This was in July. He died September 19th, 1891. Guiteau was arrested, tried, convicted, and hanged in 1882, right? 1882. His particular pattern was that he felt he had a personal grievance and delusion. Guiteau felt he deserved an official government post under Garfield and didn't get it, and therefore he killed him for it. Okay? On September 6, 1901, William McKinley was shot by an anarchist, technically a communist, Leon Kozlogz, C-Z-O-G-L-O-G-Z, Kolgolz, or S-Z, Kolgolzes. We'll just say Leon C. And it was basically at the Pan American Exposition, which was in Buffalo, New York. So this is 1901. This is serious anarchists at the time, being for communism, whatever. And so McKinley, even though got shot on September 16th, he died on September 14th. Just Galaza, right? We'll just call him Zelensky, was arrested, convicted, and executed by the electric chair. I wonder how many of these people during Trump stuff we'll see executions on. Anyway, after McKinley's assassination, that's where the government started up permanent Secret Service protection for presidents. And the Secret Service timeline notes, well, this was their beginning for presidential protection. The next assassination attempt in history was the famous case of Theodore Roosevelt. I'm surprised how many people don't know this, right? So he was, by that time, had already been president, Republican. It's the Republicans that seem to fall victim to this, as you kind of watch. Anyway, was a Republican. He's running again for second term in 1912. So on October 14th, 1912, there was a guy by the name of John Schrank. Think skate, skank, rank, skrank. He shot President Roosevelt in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Roosevelt being such a badass, right? Shot, and he still stood there and completed his speech with the bullet in him. He didn't stop. And then he let everybody know he had been hit. Yeah, what a badass, right? So Schrank was confined as insane. Now, that's a badass, kept on going. Now, on February 15th, 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt, D for Democrat, who was then president-elect, he got shot in Miami by a fellow by the name of Giuseppe Zangara. Giuseppe Zangara. You didn't like my sauce. Anyway, Roosevelt was not hit, but the bullet did actually hit the Chicago mayor, Anton Kermack. He was killed, and other people were wounded. So there was a lot of shots in that one. Zangara was arrested, convicted, and executed in Florida's electric chair. Okay. You're beginning to see a pattern, and I want to point it out. The pattern you're going to continually see is foreign nationals, not Americans. Primarily, as this continues to heat up and we get through time, it's almost always a foreign national. Just make a point of reference of it. November 1st, 1950, two Puerto Rican nationalists, Oscar Cazalo, Griselio Torrescola. They attacked Harry Truman's temporary residence at the Blair House. Truman was upstairs. Tesorla was killed in a gunfight. Cazalo was captured. The sentence was death. He later had his sentence commuted. I don't know why. And he said he was politically motivated. The attack tied to Puerto Rican nationalism. We don't want no United States. Anyway, that's what it was. Okay. Then we got John F. Kennedy. Okay. There was a major pre-presidential threat that you're going to be killed, which occurred in December 1960. People forget this one. Of course, because we remember the bullshit, grassy knoll, book depository, all that crap. But there was a fellow by the name of Richard Paul Pavlik. He was a dick too. Anyway, Richard Paul Pavlik. And his particular assassination attempt was to ram a dynamite-laden car into Kennedy's vehicle in Palm Beach. He was about to execute it, but the president had come out with his wife and young daughter. So this Pavlik, Dick Pavlik, hesitated. In a moment, people noticed him, and that's what allowed them to ultimately catch him. So it was we could say he was a killer with a conscience. I don't know. Okay. And by the way, I want to thank all the 4 thumbs down. I know it takes time for you to log off, get onto your fake account, do it, log off, get onto your fake account and do it. But I want to let you know, I am so glad you are here with me learning every single day. Right? It might turn you away from your horrible ways. Anyway, then on November 22nd, 1963, Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested, but it was total bullshit. different story. Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested, but then he got killed by Jack Ruby before trial. All bullshit, all psyop, all crap, all crime, right? And so that is the defining national moments of the 20th century. And by the way, speaking of psyop, you are now finding out that this racist, Jew-hating guy, Nick Fuentes, who I kept on telling you was a psyop, kept on telling you it was intentional. I went back and told you how he was placed in the Charlottesville shit. Remember I told you that? It's now come out, yes, he was placed there. He is a Democrat operative. He has been paid the whole time. He's now been exposed. Stay following on that one. Anyway, 1974, Samuel Bick, B-Y-C-K, basically plotted to kill Tricky Dick, Richard Nixon, by hijacking an airliner and crashing it into the White House. You think that's where the terrorists got the idea? Because they were headed to the White House when they hit the Pentagon. Anyway, Kitty, I have on great authority, Nick has nothing to do with that word at all. Just not interested in it. Anyway, chat. Yeah. Anyway, what he did is he killed a police officer and a pilot at Baltimore Washington International Airport. He got onto the plane, was working to, get it airborne or whatever it was. And then he killed himself because he was cornered, right? So this was not just a threat. This was a bona fide operational plot to kill Nixon. And of course, people think Nixon, think Watergate, think all that stuff. On my shuttles back and forth from Washington, D.C., my time there to New York City, I'd have to go back to D.C. and City. My seatmate next to me on that jumper commute flight every morning was G. Gordon Liddy, right? Because he was doing radio in New York, and we got to talk and become friends, and I got to hear a lot of interesting stuff from G. Gordon Liddy. Anyway, just a reference. Gerald Ford faced 2 attempts in the same month. So it's not just an attempt, it's 2 back-to-back in the very, very, very same month. And so on September 5th, 1975, Lynette Squeaky Fromm, kind of like foam, Lynette, her nickname was Squeaky Fromm, F-R-O-M-M-E, Frommy, Squeaky Frommy, we'll just call her Foam, pointed a pistol at Ford in Sacramento. The gun did not fire because she had not chambered the round. But she got right up to him, and here it is. Anyway, she was arrested. She was sentenced to life. And then that was September 5th. And then on September 22nd in 75, another white liberal woman, Sarah Jane Moore. This was kind of, if you remember these dates, this is right in the middle of the, what they call it, women's liberation, women's lib. This is right in the freaking thick of women's lib and Gloria Steiner and Big Hairy Bushes and hairy forearms and all that stuff. You remember that stuff? Anyway, she fired it for it in San Francisco, but a bystander who happened to jump, seeing it happen before she pulled the trigger, it actually hit the bystander, deflected from Gerald Ford. Feminazis, you're right. Hang on. I am so sorry. We're replacing orchards and stuff. And of course, with everything in the world blooming now, in my part of the world, boy, my allergies are going nuts. Anyway, so that bullet deflected. Ford didn't get it. Moore was arrested and sentenced to life. On March 30th, 1981, John Hinckley Jr. shot Ronald Reagan outside the Washington Hilton. Reagan was wounded only by ricochet. Press Secretary James Brady, which is why we now have the Brady gun at, and a police officer and a Secret Service agent were also wounded. Hinckley was arrested, not found guilty by reason of insanity. Under Bill Clinton, it seems that were several issues. I'll tell you a very funny story. I am just outside Camp David. And where my vehicle was, right, I'm sitting right at the front of the line, and the escort presidential cavalcades coming down and out of Camp David. Plain as day. And so I forget what all was going on then, right? And so Clinton's coming out. Right in front of me was a vehicle, right? And that vehicle was an old truck. It was probably like a 52, right? You know, short bed, side rail, old, whatever. But on the bumper, and I remember laughing my ass off, and I know that President Clinton had to have seen it because they kind of had to come right at it and then turn and go. The bumper of this old truck had a big ass sticker on it that said, "Clinton eats flowers." Which I guess was technically and literally correct, but it was a bumper sticker that said Clinton eats flowers. I just laughed my ass off at that. I thought that was great. I'll tell you another presidential one, right? Real quick. I'm on a flight. I am, where was I? Maybe I was at Reagan International. And I always, you know, it was Jennifer Flowers, in case you didn't get it. I'm sitting in my seat. I guess I'm in row 3. I'm in B, window seat, 2-seat, first class. So I'm in, wait, A, B, C. I'm in D. Okay. And so I sit in my seat. A guy that looked really disheveled and sloppy got on and sat down next to me. Now, this is about the time some terrorist stuff was really going on in the Middle East, and they were threatening attacking Americans. I'm leaving D.C. The guy sits down, and he proceeds to take this little package in like a lunch sack. He sets it very carefully on the floor. I mean, and it was just weird because it was like he didn't want to tip it. He set it on the floor, he slid it under his seat, and then he put his foot on it to stabilize it. And he's sweating profusely. So I'm kind of looking down at it. I'm kind of thinking to myself, you know, I've got to basically report this. And there's a tap on my shoulder, and I hear a voice, and I look up, and it's President Carter shaking my hand, saying, "I'm going to be flying with you today." Right? So I'm like, Ford, here's a former president. So now I'm kind of in a crisis. So the president sits down directly behind me. Secret Service took the seat to his left. Secret Service took the seat to the front. And I'm sitting there. It's all under heightened national security stuff going on in the Middle East. And this motherfucker, right, sitting next to me, is sweating like a pig. To me, I'm reading it, he's sweating like a motherfucker who doesn't want to die, but knows he's going to die. So now I got a crisis on my hand. One, I got to be very careful how to handle it. President's sitting behind me, and this guy's going to go off. I got Secret Service there, But through all the machinations that are going on in my head, I'm thinking that whatever he's done and got through with is basically Mercury switch oriented. You know why I would think that, right? I would think it was Mercury switch oriented because of the way he cared for the package. And I'm telling you, he didn't tip it. He didn't wobble it. He just kind of picked it up like this. I only catch it when it's doing this. I don't really know how I got it in. And so I'm thinking, number one, it's a bomb. And number two, it's got a Mercury switch in it, which means I can't bum rush him. Secret Service can't bum rush him, right? The president is not going to get out. He's in a protected seat. He's got the wall behind him. He's got Secret Service there. So there's no way to shuttle the president out. There's no way to do whatever. And if I reach down and grab it, I'm going to be the one fucking responsible for setting it off. And so I'm doing these mental gymnastics in my head, which is a combination of what if it's a bomb? And so what I'm trying to do is the pressure and under this, I'm trying to read this guy. I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at his shoes, his shoestrings, his, where his pants and his suit cuffed. He still had a trench coat on, right? But he had a suit underneath. I mean, I'm looking at any and everything I can find. Any and everything I can find on this guy to try to assess, is this one bad dude, right? And I'm going to get sucked out of a plane as it blows and the president and the plane and everything's going to go down. And so I'm doing this machinations, right? The plane starts to taxi, plane starts to take off. He's got his foot on it. He's holding it. I'm telling you, and there weren't red shoes, by the way. And I'm telling you, I'm this close to having to make a move. Trying to assess, can I get my body down and pick this up and keep it flat? Not be kneed or kicked by the guy. Somebody says it's a bowl of soup, right? He was treating that carefully. And I'm just trying to go through all these mathematical equations in my hand of what I do, and I can't let the president die. We get through the takeoff, we're going. When we stabilize, he's let his foot off, and he reaches down to pick it up. I'm talking, this is all, my mind's moving at 1,000 miles an hour. And he reached down to pick it up, and I saw him tip it, and it didn't go off. So the first thing my mind said is, okay, it wasn't a trigger switch bomb. What the fuck is this? And when he picked it up and pulled back the bag, it was a flat bottle of whiskey, and he just couldn't wait to get his drink. And that's why he was fucking sweating, because he couldn't drink it out in the terminal. He couldn't sit there and drink it. And what he pulled out was sweating over was a fucking big ass gulp of whiskey. Oh man, I came this close to making an ass out of myself in front of the president. But that's what it was. He was going through the shakes or whatever, right? But it sure came close. Anyway, that's my Jimmy Carter story for you. But it tested me. It tested my wits of observation and understanding where to go, how to get, what can I do? How could you subdue him, right? You're thinking, I've got to go down. I've got to elbow him to the throat and take him out so he can't move. I mean, I thought like taking a shot then, but I didn't. Anyway, I didn't ask for a shot. Anyway, under George Bush, well, we just go back to Clinton. Clinton had his attempt to the clearest assassination style case was October 29th, 1994. Francisco Martin Duran, not the second half of Duran, but this guy was a Duran. He fired rifle rounds at the White House. He believed he was targeting Clinton inside, but Clinton was inside and unharmed, right? Duran was arrested, convicted, and sentenced to 40 years, but he actually took shots inside the White House. Under George W. Bush, the most serious attempt occurred on May 10th, 2005. And it seems like such ancient history to all this now. It's how quickly we forget. But it's May 10th, 2005, and it's Tbilisi. Is that how you say it in Georgia? TBI Tbilisi, Georgia. Vladimir Arturian. He wasn't the Manchurian candidate. He was the Arturian candidate, right? He threw a live grenade towards Bush and Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili. Am I saying that right? But it was a live round. He had pulled the pin. It just failed to detonate. He was arrested after a manhunt and a gunfight, another foreign national. He was convicted in Georgia, sentenced to life. And that's the one attempted assassinations of George W. Bush. And then under Barack Obama, Shaka Zulu, something like that. Then under Barack Obama, there were threats and plots and everything else. There was one in November of 2011. There was a shooting by Oscar Romero Ortega Hernandez, hyphenated like Ocasio-Cortez or whatever. Oscar Romero Ortega Hernandez. He got off 8 rounds before they got to him. He got off 8 rounds into the White House. He was sentenced to 25 years for terrorism and weapons offense. Now, I find this really interesting. This is where the switch happened. He was there to kill Barack Obama. But they did not arrest this guy or even mention attempted assassination plot, even though that was in his own admission and everything else. What they did is they did it under terrorism and weapon offenses. Right? Now, I don't know if it was a technicality because the bullets hit the Secret Service area at the White House and Obama wasn't there, but his state admission was to get Obama. Who knows? Right? Could have been a false flag, could have been a lot of things, but that happened. There's a lot of questions I have on that one, right? Now let's look at Donald Trump. And we're gonna kind of dive in this deeply. Because with Donald Trump, there's not only been physical attacks, there's been close operational attempts. I'm very confused on a lot of them, and here's why. And I'll tell you something. I don't know if I've ever talked about it before, but this would have been 17. There was this kid that threatened President Trump, which they told you about. But at Trump Hotel, there was a person that got into the hotel and was obviously there to kill President Trump. Got apprehended, weapon and all. But the guy officially had disappeared from the books and was said to have been killed many years earlier in action in the military. Now, I was there. That has completely disappeared from all the books, all the records, all the crap. Somehow, this person who was supposedly dead, ex-military, there in the building to assassinate Trump, got caught in the stairwell, but it forever disappeared. That's just really an odd one to me. I don't have any answers for it or anything. Just know it happened, but he disappeared. Anyway, the very first attempt, at Donald Trump, and yes, it was an operation, and I think that's why it was kept quiet. It wasn't a patsy. It wasn't some goofy son of a bitch that they're going to blame it on like these other ones. It was a full-blown, in my own personal opinion, spook targeted hit. I knew exactly what I was looking at, and it all got covered up. I would say it got covered up and it got denied because they didn't want you to know the system was trying to take out President Trump. They couldn't afford another Kennedy shit going on. But it wasn't the converting of some weak mind. This was a big deal. Anyway, the first attempt was in June of 2016. Michael Stephen Sanford. This is in Las Vegas. It's a Trump rally. He attempted to grab an police officer's gun. He got it. They got him under, they got him subdued, under arrest. He said he was there to kill Trump. He was arrested. He pleaded guilty to weapons and disruption charges. Now pay attention. He admitted he was there to kill Trump. He got the police officer's gun. Says, I was here to kill Trump. He did get arrested. He served prison time. Then he disappeared from the system because he was deported. Deported. You're going to see how some of these things really closely tie with people coming in from other countries doing this, but he was deported. The second attempt was July 13th, 2024, and this was when Matthew Crooks shot Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The only thing I stand firmly on today is watching that event, and everybody said it was staged. It's not a fucking trick shot, right? That the bullet went through an ear. That was an act of God. And when President Trump turned his head, as I've always said, that was God showing us he's going to make it through this thing, and we got a chance. I do that as an act of God. I did 10 hours of forensic analysis of not only the scene of where it occurred, but all the people telling, yeah, there was a guy standing on the water tower and he zipped line down. I did all the forensics for that. I showed you all the bullshit that was there. They caught this thing on camera. Here's a guy sitting here. It was all bullshit. But with that said, I think Crooks was an operational plan as well. And the main reason I use that is because he was tutelized by a known FBI agent. His parents were radicalized. They wiped all his social media, and he was cremated before anybody had a chance to do any autopsy or anything. When I did the forensics, I showed you FBI breaking protocol, cleaning up the crime scene, washing it off the building. That was totally bullshit. They got rid of everything. Do I know if other ones are involved or whatever? No, just you can go back and watch that analysis. I did a lot of analysis on every single thing that was claimed, so you could do it. But anyway, Crooks was killed by law enforcement at the scene. And then later, FBI said it was an assassination attempt. I told you at that time I blamed that on Shapiro, who was heavily involved, right? Anyway, we don't know what happened to him, his parents, or all that stuff. Again, sloppy. Last minute Secret Service changes. The agents that are around the president are picked not only by their skills, but they're picked by what's called like size coverage, not life size, like size. That means when an agent's standing next to a president headshot, that agent's shot, right, is blocked by that agent. That's why they're there for the life. I do not understand this DEI shit. They put the two women there, but when I go back and even look at the photos and I see the female agents even ducking her head when president's up, it all was bullshit protocol, all planned. And by the way, remember, CNN and all the other news stations refused to cover any Trump event, but yet magically they're there at Butler. That's not a coincidence. They were there to capture it on tape. Anyway, then there was the third attempt. Past Crooks, this was Ryan Wesley Ruth. Most people don't also know this guy was transgendered. You can see photos of him with his bitch tits. but he was transgender. He was the one that got into the golf course in Florida. Again, he got within 50 yards. Totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable, but he got within 50 yards. Of course, he announced they announced just recently, this was in February, by the way, that he was sentenced to life. Then, of course, we have this Cole Thomas Allen, the newest one, April 25th, 2026. This was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Again, I don't know if you've seen it. Female Security and Secret Service. As soon as the shots ran out, they ducked for cover and ran out of the building. Which basically means they did not legitimately receive their training. You are trained to head directly to the fire, in the fire. They freaking ducked and ran. Anyway, somehow he got into the building, shot at Secret Service agents, etc. He's been indicted. We'll see what happens. He's not convicted yet. Okay? Yes, you want 6-foot+ Marines around the president. That's standard fucking protocol. Butler was, again, anyway, too many things. Go back and watch all my coverage. I did a lot of time. There are several attempted plots. Now, plots are different than threats and different than attempts. There are plots. There was a fellow by the name of Asif Merchant. Most people never talk about that. He was a murder for hire plot paid by Iran. Look at all these people. Poor Iran, poor Iran. They can't help their Muslim. The single largest state sponsor of terrorism ever in the history of anything. And people forget this person who was charged in 2004. And it was a confirmed 100% Iranian-funded murder for hire plot. My nose is running away with me. I apologize. Then there was someone named Sean Moper, Mooper. Moper was arrested in 2025 for death threats against Trump and other officials. He pleaded guilty. He was sentenced in 2025. His targets were President Trump, J.D. Vance, and others. Dean Delicali, Chiaie. I don't really know how you say it. Delicali was arrested recently here in 2026. He basically said he's going to neutralize and kill President Trump. Right? And so I want to talk about some of the other incidents that maybe you didn't hear about. You know, you hear about Sanford was arrested and Crooks was killed and Ruth was arrested and all this other stuff. But President Trump has become the single most targeted American president in American history. The multiples are through the roof. I mean, staggeringly through the roof. Now, you got to understand, there are threats, there are plots, there are attempts. I can't even list all the categories because I'll be sitting here for 6 hours with you if I just, read the names in a one-liner about them. This is 100% cause and effect of social media, the system, and government officials going, oh, I wish we had better assassin and got him. This is why we have to crack down on this stuff. This is why these officials, like, was it a Wisconsin or Michigan Senate candidate just got arrested? Fucking running for Senate, and he's saying he's got to assassinate President Trump. Okay. Oh, and by the way, there's just simple physical attacks as well. Historically, against Republicans, at minimum, it's 150% rise in threats. So historically, what history shows you is the threats predominantly, and the attempts predominantly come from liberals and activists and foreigners, all on the liberal spectrum, all with the liberal supports. Okay? Period. Then there is the media effect. After the Ronald Reagan shooting, and they made stories out of it, then you get every wackadoodle in the world that wants to go down in history. So that was one of the accelerating effects in this. Well, now we don't just have, James Carville. What logical person does that, even if you hate the other person? But see, they know if they say it and keep on saying it, a weak mind out there is going to take them up on it. Now President Trump deals with 8 a day have to be investigated. 8 a day has to be investigated, right? Some of the ones you didn't even hear about, which are in fact assassination attempts, because there were convictions, but the news doesn't cover them because they don't fit the mold. But there was this Gary Lee Lingang, L-E-I-N-G-A-N-G, Gary Ling, out of North Dakota. This was September 2017 in North Dakota. This fellow stole a forklift and drove it into the motorcade, attempting to flip the president's limousine. Oh, yes, and you're right. I bet Melania has had her share as well, and Barron has had his share as well. It just happened in my family to my children, and I'm nothing, right? But just our work on behalf of the audits and stuff, the death threats and shit were real all the time, right? Anyway, so this guy tried to get to the motorcade and flip the limousine. He was found guilty. He got a long prison sentence. I don't know exactly what it was, but they said that he did it because of psychological and psychiatric distress. But a liberal, but listening to liberal media. Then there was a fellow in 2019, and I'm only kind of giving the highlights of the more serious one. His name was John Allen Blake. He basically he mailed a letter to the White House, going to kill President Trump and blow up the White House, blow up Trump Tower, blow up the Pentagon, and blow up the UN. He was sent to prison. This is kind of the same time when Johnny Depp and Madonna said, "I ever had the urge to blow up the White House. If we ever needed somebody, an assassin." Those guys walk free. This guy took it seriously, saw nothing happen. He acted on this time. Then there was a fellow by the name of Pascal Ferrier. He sent, in fact, a deadly ricin laced letter to President Trump in the White House. It wasn't a gun attack. It was a poison attack. Pascal is a female, by the way. 22 years in prison. Okay? Not covered. Not covered. Right? Not covered. And I'm not going to cover the ones I've already covered. Tyler Miles Leveque, Leveque. This was January 2025. Openly, social media, posting threats. I'm going to kill the president. He got arrested. Sean Monper, Monper. This was April 2025. He got charged by the Department of Justice. Same thing, going to murder Trump, etc. Multi officials. He had planned it. He got caught beforehand. Thomas Eugene Strebevel, Streavevel, Strebevel. This was in June 2025. He's from Yucca Valley, California. Same thing, right? Same thing. Threatening to kill the president, etc. He had done it a lot of time. Robert Herrera, July and August of 25. Same thing. Said he's going to kill the president. and I'm not going to miss. He was planning an event in Texas, right? They got him. Natalie Rose Jones, August 2025, of Indiana, charged in Washington, D.C. Again, she said, I'm going to kill President Trump. She got arrested, which they have to do. I'm telling you, there's so many of these. But the reason you're not hearing these names is because the media doesn't want people to know when you say that you have committed a crime and you're fucking going to jail. See, I'm giving you the juxtaposition here. They'll try to say, well, somebody had grievances, they were this or whatever. They're not telling you how many people they incite to get it. James Donald Vance Jr., same thing, 2025. Posting, gonna kill Trump, etc. Posted in a fake profiles, Blue Sky, etc. Richard James Spring, same thing. Comstock Park, Michigan, same thing. Christopher Davies, November 25. Florida, he pleaded guilty, right? Trent Schneiderder, Illinois, same thing. This is in Reston, Virginia. This is a fellow who kind of disappeared, but his name was Kushtanov. Don't really know what happened to him, but they got him. Benjamin Smith. This was in March 26. West Virginia, same thing. Message Donald Trump Jr. was in it. So Andrew D. Emerald from Massachusetts, same thing. 8 times, by the way. Nick Guadalupe Cruz Lopez, I told you about him. Alex Villaveniciano, 26, same thing. Right? One of these on the list, now been charged, former head of the FBI, James Comey. Now that tells you how far this has gone. All of these other ones doing the same fucking break the law thing, media will not cover them because they want people to believe they can get away with it. They want to incite people. This is the psychological warfare con. But we arrest our own former head of the FBI, James Comey, and all they cover on Comey, it's a political thing. That wasn't really that. Now, why do I cover this? I cover this because you need to understand what we're seeing right now does not fall within the organic process of threats to a sitting president or his administration. That's why I kind of told you about audit stuff. When we go back in time and we look at the patterns, you got to understand what you're measuring against. When you look at the patterns, you're going to find a normal trend. You're going to find out historically, okay, if you're a president, we know it comes with risk. How much does it really occur? Until everything changes. Everything changes with President Trump headed into office the first time, and everything goes through the roof. Freaking through the roof. To me, from a data telemetry, data science standpoint, that basically tells me historically a president will get death threats. It happens. But President Trump, in every category, has exceeded the norm and have more. And there's a lot more. I literally could not list them all. And it's a combination because the political parties now do this and they recommend killing a president. It's endorsed by top government officials. It's endorsed by pop stars, movie stars, etc. And that's the machine being turned on. Name a pop star, a movie star in the past says somebody needs to get rid of the president. Any president. Doesn't exist. And so all these people that have been held up by a system to have people think, oh, they're famous, I got to follow them. That's all bullshit mechanisms. They raise who they want. They want them to be liberals so they can move you. That's why you get like rap and all this other stuff, gangster style. It's all psychological warfare. But then also looking through that filter historically, you understand they're pulling out all the stops when it comes to Trump. And it's dual messaging in all of it. It's dual messaging because they want to say if you're running for office and you're this and you're that, somebody's going to kill you. They don't want good people to run. That's another way to do it. Also with in the election era, if they don't do anything about it or people don't get convicted of it, they know the cause and effect is America saying, well, fuck it, I'm not going to vote because my vote doesn't count. Well, by the way, you should be voting more. You should be there more because why? If they've convinced you your vote doesn't count, they don't need to rig elections anymore, do they? And so you actually end up aiding and abetting them. This is why Lynn Wood, total dumbass, way back when, we got to protest the machines. Don't cast the vote until they change the machines. That was aiding and abetting. It's one of the things that got Warnock and all those assholes in. All cons. If they can convince you not to vote because your vote doesn't count, a certain amount of people are going to say, fuck it, I'm not going to vote, doesn't count anyway. You have now sided with the enemy. We only catch them by coming out and voting and having mass density in it. Don't do their job for them. And so I think you can see through this retelling, and you can investigate this on your own. Something very synthetic is going on with President Trump. And by the way, if you remember, way back when after Butler, I told you there are going to be many more. I told you, audit me. I told you there's going to be many more. This is going to get worse. Now, there can't be much worse than the former head of the FBI suggestion, the very guy that's supposed to, right? Supposed to prosecute this shit, suggesting it. That's why this is so bad. Your head needs to be on a swivel. You need to understand the psychological warfare. And by the way, if you look at like Nick Fuentes and stuff, I told you they paid people. You saw it from the Southern Poverty Law Center. That was all a setup. They put him there. They brought him into power. He convinced all these people, and then he turns on Trump. And then all of these people that have been turning on Trump, the same day, all of them come out with messages, oh, we need to heal. We need to get the parties back together. We've got to stop calling out each other. But they all do it on the same day. This is all psychological warfare, folks. Stay the course. Keep your head on a swivel. Understand what's going on. That's why you're still hearing stuff. Serbia, Uganda, Nicaragua, the machines. Oh, I found a new formula within a formula of a formula of a new formula. All of the same stuff is going to come back up before the midterms. And that's why God bless every one of you for understanding the paper's a felony. This is why they don't want to deal with the paper. This is why they want to deal with algorithms. This is why they want to deal with other stuff, because they know they've been caught. They know it. And this is where the felony is. But the system doesn't want to do a peep about it because the whole system's rigged and dirty from top to bottom. The only one really fighting is President Trump. And that's why you hear President Trump, turn over your voter rolls. We're going to lock you up. We're going to turn off it. We're going to clean the voter rolls. We're going to do this. That's why there's so much, because he knows really what's at stake. Thank God he's not listening to all the bullshit out there. But that tells you how bad the fight is. This is nasty. It is horrible. It is dangerous. And I just want you to understand what you're seeing about President Trump is not organic. It's planned. Share this program. I love you all.
You are not going in there. Locker room shadows, a line is being crossed, protecting the spaces where the truth is being lost. 5 fierce women rising like a Let's go. To keep the boundaries steady and the safety in its form. Thunder Turf, stand your ground. Thunder Turf, the truth is found. Logic and courage, we hold the key. Guarding the future for you and for me. Gatekeeper. Doors locked tight, only women inside.
Legal Eagle.
Justice in the court, your ideology denied.
Logic lock.
Common sense prevails, the binary stays clear.
Fair play.
Trophies for the girls, no men allowed here.
Shield. Protecting the kids, keeping childhood pure. Thunder Turf.
Stand your ground.
Thunder Turf.
The truth is found. Logic and courage, we
You
hold
can't
the key.
stop us!
What's the matter, boys? Feeling trapped?
Let us out!
Oh, you're not going anywhere.
The truth will shine.
Thunder Turf.
We hold the line.
Thunder Turf, reporting for duty.
Time to clean up these streets. Let's do it! We've got this.
Thunder Turfs assemble! Thunder Turfs, go!
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother, wow. She tried to hit an agent with her car, oh no! Pop, motherfucker, now she's gone! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-head and fuckables with a septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! You fuck around and find out it's what it is! Jeffrey Pretty was a Jewish homo. Started talking shit to protect a chomo. He was getting nicked when he pulled a gun. Bam, motherfucker, now you're gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with a septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. Fuck around and find out what that is.
Our courts are based on clear and convincing evidence. Want convictions? Want justice? For what happened in the 2020 election? Then we need your help. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The decision you make in the next few moments could decide whether we ever get our elections fixed or not. Here's why. Trump campaign and allies filed 64 different lawsuits. They all went down in flames. 100% of these cases were presented on It's the Machines, or The Machines Changed the Votes, or The Voting Company Executive Said He Would Make Sure Donald J. Trump Would Not Win. They all went down in flames. Why? You can't bring theories to court as evidence. No supposed Zoom call or six-degree polynomial math theory or census data is or ever will be proof of fraud. You can't bring theories to court as evidence. Here's why. In both civil and criminal law, the side making a claim carries the burden of proof, and prosecutors must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Without physical or otherwise verifiable evidence, a case cannot meet this high threshold. Physical evidence is the key. The question is, did anyone get relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The full forensic audit of Maricopa County, Arizona is the only evidence-gathering work which gathered relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election. Evidence so damning that the system, the deep state, and those who pull the strings of this country have fought to keep it hidden and have hoped to have it be forgotten to time. Almost $3 million invested in time, funds, and efforts to unlock that which the system wanted hidden. But now, that evidence is in danger of being lost forever. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. With the 2026 midterms coming up, the system is going to try to lame duck President Trump and then most likely introduce new impeachment proceedings. This is the evidence which will help win the war which is surely to come. We need to keep Maricopa County full forensic investigation and archive secure and ongoing. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We need your help securing the full forensic audit archives. Don't allow the only testable, objective, and reliable 2020 election evidence fall into obscurity. Millions were spent on getting it documented and tested. This is historic evidence. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County full forensic audit archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. Please donate now.